Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on April 26, 2021 at approximately 1:21 p.m. PST. Well, things are a little different. So, how's it been going? Have you figured out what you're not content with in your own life? Lord knows I have. Okay. The real key to making things better is to figure out what's not right. Many people are told when they're young, you've got to have your life in order by the time you're 20. I'm telling you, after over 80,000 clients under my belt, people don't work that way. By the time people have usually figured out where they desire to go in life by their mid 40s to early 50s. Okay, prior to that, there is way too much going on. Mistakes are being made, miscalculations. You'll go down roads that prove to be inadequate or prove to be useless to you, or at least that's what they'll appear. That's what people do. You make miscalculations to start with. It's by making those that you figure out what you're happy with. Lord knows, when I tried getting into any of the trades, it didn't work well. And I found out that was not the road to go. Net result, if I can find the oil cap on my car, I'm doing well. However, I do consider myself very mechanically inclined. Every time I'm inclined, I go to a mechanic. Now, if you take a look at the way the world is today, which is, to say the least, disappointing, people are known to point fingers at everybody. Okay, it's that person's fault. It's the politician's fault. It's the bigwig's fault. It's the pharmaceutical company's fault. Reality check. Everybody is equally to blame. Okay, yes, all of the above mentioned have their own quirks and they've got certain powers that you don't have. Okay, like for instance, the politicians make the laws. Now, in my opinion, it would be actually really nice if they would follow them, but a law that is made has to apply for everybody, no matter what station in life you are, no matter what your background, for a law to work. And for society to subsequently work, laws have to apply to everybody, no matter what your station. If they don't, society will split in two, and you'll have two cultures growing. The one that is supposedly law-abiding, and the one that figures that the laws don't work. This second culture will develop its own set of rules and own set of protocols, and again, if the laws are not and do not apply to everybody equally, you'll get that second culture fracturing again. The net result of this you can see in the state of the world today. So if you're in a position to make rules, be it running your house, running your business, running a community event, make sure any laws, any policies you put in place apply to everyone. Okay, everyone included, including yourself. Once we have that happening, society can start remerging itself into a unified force. Now, this is not the same thing as a world government, at least not the way most people talk about it. Understand, a world government simply means a government where everybody communicates and they make decisions that are good for the planet on the whole, for the peoples on the whole. Now, the reality is we are not talking about a single person sitting at the top of the totem pole going, this is how everybody operates. That's called dictatorship. Okay, and if you look at the practicality of it, somebody living in the heart of a desert is not going to have the same understanding of life in the far north, and vice versa. So you have to have representatives come from all of these different walks of life. But again, the laws still have to be concise enough to apply to guide people, and yet lax enough that people have room to work, to make adjustments to what is necessary. There are there are 3 laws that are absolutely critical. Okay, those 3 laws. Be true to yourself, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you, and energy out, energy in. if you follow these 3 laws, the rest will fall into place. Take a look at all the laws, all the guidelines you operate by. Be they the laws that are set up by the community you live in or by the country you live in, or if they're religious or spiritual laws. Compare them all to those 3. And what you will likely find, I know everything I've looked at fits in this, all of those laws will fit in the first 3. Okay, now if you keep that in mind, when we work together, we can actually turn this world back into an absolute joy. We can return it to paradise. Okay, but it's up to you as individuals to make this happen. And remember, politicians, religious icons, spiritual leaders, superstars, all of them are simply people. There's not a single person out there, sorry to disappoint some of you, but there is not a single person out there that is of more value, of more worth than the next one. The most financially successful individual on the planet is of no more functional worth than the tree outside the door. Now, granted, they likely have more money than the tree, but you'll notice the tree doesn't fight with itself very much. Now, the idea here is working together, we can actually make things happen. Now, I've shown you this before, okay, multiple times. Okay, take a sheet of paper and put a list together on it of things that you feel need doing, that you feel that require doing, require accomplishing, to eliminate the clutter, eliminate the stuff about your life that you're not content with. When you do that, okay, much like what I've been working on myself, as you remove all the clutter, the stuff you're not content with, all you're left with is the life that you're content with. Now, you got to remember, you can only control your own actions, your own thoughts. And yes, your thoughts will wander on occasion, but so be it. You have to take a look, well, it's wise to take a look at it and go, okay, I've got dominant control over how I'm feeling, over how I'm thinking, over how I'm reacting. You do not have, in all likelihood, any control over how somebody else reacts or thinks. All you functionally got to work with is you can look at how they react and then adjust your response accordingly. Okay, now for me, it really boils down to a case of taking a look at the way my world is working and eliminating the stress points. Happily, this has happened rather nicely. And again, if you're striving to do something that you don't know how to do, that you haven't done before, talk to somebody that has done it successfully. If you desire to become a millionaire, talk to a millionaire and ask how they did it. Okay, all millionaires are not locked up in isolated towers where you can't get at them. Okay, some you will find in very remarkable places. But it really boils down to talking to people to find out. Okay, and above all, be honest with them. Okay, remember, the biggest rule of thumb here, I love the way it was put once when I saw it. Those of you that have the power, that have the strength to do so, take care of, as in guide the ones that are lost. It is by taking this philosophy that we can help turn this whole world around where everybody can prosper, where we can get rid of the wars, we can get rid of the prejudice. And yes, I know that's a tall order. And I also know that it did not happen overnight. Okay, we have a lot of what they call mainstream religions. Now, amazingly enough, most of these religions talk about peace and love thy neighbor, etc., etc. And yet, my understanding is that about 80% of the wars that are happening today, 80% of the conflicts, that's an awful lot, are apparently caused or triggered by religious or spiritual differences. Now, with this in mind, it's time to start talking about peace, about working with each other, and not just talking about, but implementing it. Okay, when I go out for a walk, I will talk to whoever's going by. And it's just a real quick, smile at them, have a nice day, and carry on. It's not like I get into a long conversation with people. But that simple smile, like the young lass I was talking to today, that simple smile, that simple hello, may be all it takes to pop them out of an absolutely miserable mood. Okay, so reach out to people. Now, I realize we've got a disaster going on here as far as COVID goes. But COVID is not what created the problem. It's a byproduct. Okay, it's a byproduct of greed, of debauchery, of self-centeredness, of basically a whole pile of real negative behaviors that mankind has been implementing since, quite frankly, since civilization started. So I'm not expecting this to change overnight, but it would be nice to see people start to reach out and start to help each other. I'm seeing it more and more, in all fairness. Okay, and I'm by no means perfect. I have my flaws, I have my hiccups. But my goal with this particular series is to eventually get global, to let people know that, hey, together we've got a shot at making this a great place to live. Okay, I don't believe in this first world, second world, third world countries. We're all on the same world. Last I checked, this is the first one that we're on. Now, there's a cute little thought out there that mankind was seeded from somewhere else. And let's just go with that for a second. Let's assume it is. Do you think whoever put us here is really happy with what we're doing with the planet? Or if we were born here, if we were created here, however we got here, are we as a society, as a species, are we making the most of the world we're sitting on? Or are we decimating the actual planet that we rely on to live right now? Think about that for a moment. Are you doing your part to make things a little more smooth, a little smoother? I know about 20 years ago, somewhere, I think it was in Pennsylvania, down in the United States, there was a test that was done that proved that plants respond according to the energy around them, according to whether it's positive energy or negative energy. People respond the same way as do animals. Now, since plants, people, and animals all respond the same way, it might be an idea to start actually treating each other in a decent fashion. Give up on this whole idea of, the government's out to get me. Every major corporation out there is just full of terrible people that are trying to control everything we're doing. Take control of your own life. Now, I absolutely encourage you to follow the laws of the land in which you are. Okay, because I'll tell you, from my standpoint, I just can't deal with the stress. The problems that arise from breaking the laws. But take a look at the way you're dealing with your life, and where possible, do what you can to make it a better one. You're the only one on the planet that has any control over whether you're successful. A lot of people can tell you you're going to waste your life, you're not going to amount to anything. Stay away from the art, from the creative arts. Don't try and become a musician, because you'll never make money at it. Don't become a writer, because you'll never make money at it. Okay, well, there's an awful lot, albeit a very small percentage, of musicians, actors, and writers that are phenomenally successful. And that's because somebody else took a look at their work and went, hey, this is actually really good. Let's see what we can do with it. The trick is for you to believe it's possible first. Hence why I have a sign right here in my office that says, I am worth it. Okay, those 4 words, if you haven't done so already, put them on your fridge. Put them someplace where you can see them. Okay, they're a good reminder that you actually have a lot of value, regardless of what anybody says. Even we take a look at some of the jobs people call menial. But the reality is, those menial jobs are some of the most important ones on the planet. Okay, you take a look at a restaurant, for instance. Maybe you're a dishwasher and you've been told that's the bottom of the kitchen. Newsflash, I spent 6.5 years working as a dishwasher. And talk about power. Think of it this way. In a kitchen, okay, in a restaurant, you've got your cooks, you've got your waitresses, and you've got your dishwasher. Well, if the cook messes up, the waitress can usually straighten it out by really good service. If the waitress messes up, the cook can usually do the same thing. But if the dishwasher does not have the dishes clean to take the food out on, or worse, to cook the food in the first place, in the right order, the whole kitchen collapses and there's nothing anybody can do to correct it. Okay, so if you think being a dishwasher is the bottom of the totem pole, not even close. It's like if you're working in a garage. Many people figure that because they start as a tire changer, they got the worst job. They've actually got the most important job. Because if you're doing 80 miles an hour and you blow a tire, or your alignment's off and you all of a sudden start to wobble, that whole car is a write-off. Okay, you can blow the engine. If the wheels are working right, that car will stop safely. Okay, assuming, of course, you don't panic. Every job has value. Now, there's a lot of millionaires out there that seem to have this idea that I've got money, therefore everything works for me. I actually heard somebody one day that went, I can't get COVID. I've got too much money. I'm too rich to get COVID. Now, I'm not sure, but I don't think COVID actually checks people's bank accounts before deciding if it's going to infect them. Okay, it's a very simple issue. If you're breathing, you are susceptible. Okay, but you got to realize that if you're a millionaire and you like other people doing things for you, okay, I know myself, I don't like cooking. I'm no millionaire, but I go out to a restaurant quite frequently when I can, because that way I don't have to cook. Okay, but I also treat the waitresses properly, because the reality is they're cooking for me. They're doing something so I don't have to do it. To me, this is a good thing. Okay, now the question is, do you treat the waitresses you're dealing with properly? Do you treat the people that are serving you in the way that you desire to be treated? Are you treating them the way you desire to be treated? If the answer is no, you're probably going to find you don't get treated properly. At least not for very long. I used to joke about it and tell people, I make everybody I meet happy. Some people by arriving, most people by leaving. Okay, maybe you think in the same terms. But, that being said, I became reclusive for a lot of reasons, and that was one of them. I didn't understand people and no, that's not true. I didn't relate to people that well. Okay, so what I've come to the conclusion of is very simple. Okay, when you're taking a look at your life, it's easier to identify what you're not content with and start changing those. It doesn't matter what you change it to. Once you've changed it, if you're not content with that, change it again. It really boils down to this. I got a pen in this hand, I don't want this one, put it over here. If I'm not happy, I can put it over here. It's really not a painful thing to change. Okay. I've even done the really bizarre thing and ended up changing my height. I wasn't planning on it, but it turns out, according to the doctors, I have actually, in the last year, grown almost an inch. Like I said, my life is a little weird. But, working together, striving for success as a species, will turn this planet into a very enjoyable place for everybody to live. And the reality is, I don't know about you, but I found it so much easier trying to do things when I don't have major problems. Picture trying to build a house of cards while somebody's shaking the table. It's kind of like the same idea as try working on a mechanical task when somebody's moving the car. Okay, No fun. If you're trying to build a house and somebody sets the bottom end of it on fire, we can safely say it's going to be harder to build it. This is why I say peace is not brought through superior firepower. Quiet is, because let's face it, if people are shooting at you, the odds are you're going to try and be quiet and stay out of sight. That's just the reality behind it. Okay. So when we start looking at peace, I like the way Robin Williams put it. He said there are thousands of plans for peace and virtually no action. Personally, I think it is way overdue time to put the action to work. And that is simply by going back to the idea of treating those around you in the way you desire to be treated yourself. If you're going to a church, if you're going to a temple, if you're going to a coven, okay, this is great for brotherhood. It's great to find people that have a similar outlook. It's kind of like if you've been having trouble with alcohol or drugs. Going to a group of people that have gone through it, if you're working towards helping each other, okay, is a great thing. It helps you feel like there's something there. But it doesn't make anybody less valuable than the next. Speaking directly to people that have addiction problems, and I don't care if it's alcohol, drugs, chocolate, coffee, food, doesn't matter. Addiction is addiction. It's something your body craves that you don't seem to have any functional control over at this point. This does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a lesser individual. It makes you a person with a hiccup. Okay, with a complication. Dyslexics are people that have a complication. They cannot see the wording right. This makes it more difficult for them. People with gambling addictions have the same problem. They're pulled away, they are drawn, they can't seem to stop themselves from gambling. Okay, this is not something to berate somebody for. But it is something to point out, if you know somebody that has this problem, it is imperative that you start letting them know. And then if you're in a position to help them, great. If not, remind them that it's the addiction that is the problem, not they themselves. Of course, they themselves may be a problem too. That's for you to decide. So what I've been doing is eliminating a lot of stuff. Today's been going really well. I've gotten almost 3 times the little task done that I was planning on doing, than what I did yesterday. So I'm quite happy with that. Right now, I've got a few extra things to do today before I get started on my actual shift. But this was one of the ones that I wanted to get to and desired to get to. If you look at some of my past videos, there's a small section of them called language. And what I've done is detailed the linguistic impact of certain spoken words and how they hold you back, how they will actually cause a problem. But in those same videos, I give you the words that work to replace them. Now understand, every word you say has an impact. It carries an energy with it. By changing those words, you can alter the way your life is going. Okay. I mean, just think about it. If you take a look at that sign, I am worth it. One minor change will flip that around and totally decimate everything. If we change that to I am worth less, then all of a sudden everything becomes a mess. So those 4 words, I personally recommend put them in your office, wherever you work. Put them on your fridge in the kitchen. Okay. And if you're that way inclined, put them in your bedroom. The important factor for those of you that cannot see that are listening to this, absolutely give yourself auditory markers to do exactly the same thing. The important factor here is that together, regardless of who we call what we're calling, what you call your God, your spiritual guide, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Work with everybody, no matter what they call that. Okay, no matter whether they see it as a he, a she, and it doesn't matter. All people have exactly the same value as individuals go. Okay, and I do mean every race, every species, every plant, every mineral, it all has equal value, and it's all living on the same planet. Now, yes, there are races that don't live on this planet. There are things that happen that are not on this planet, and that's okay. Okay, I've been dealing with this for a very long time, and yes, I've got some very twisted outlooks. Some people have told me I'm completely off my nut for thinking that encouraging people to get along is a bad idea and won't work. It only won't work if people don't do it. Now, I can't speak for anybody else effectively. I can tell you I'm very disappointed in the way this world has been. I stayed hidden for a long, long, long time, okay, from people. And it's only been in the last since March 6th of this year that I started to really come out and start pushing this whole idea. But I've been watching for a very long time from a reclusive standpoint because I really, frankly, didn't desire to be in the spotlight. The neat part was I kept telling people, the people that were close to me, I don't desire to be on a pedestal. And I got told at one point, somebody looks at me and goes, Keith, you will never be able to stop people from putting you on a pedestal if that's what they desire to do. But it becomes a problem if you start seeing yourself on said pedestal. Okay, if people look up to you, yes, they will, some people will look up to you and put you on a pedestal and go, oh, you're such a magnificent person. But there are the others that will go, oh, you're put up on a pedestal, so I'm going to try and bring you down. Well, if you don't see yourself on the pedestal in the first place, they're going to have a lot harder time of bringing you down. Okay. And I believe I like the way it was put centuries back. Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. If you don't like me, that works out fine. You're right up there with a whole pile of people. Okay, if what I'm saying sounds completely airborne, absolutely ignore it. If I'm saying things that you don't feel apply to you, then frankly don't take them on. Okay, myself, I have simply learned that people are in general all the same. I know, bad idea. Everybody's supposed to be different. You're all unique in your own ways. But everybody requires oxygen to breathe. Everybody requires some sort of sustenance to survive. And we all like being treated with respect, no matter whether we're talking in a technologically advanced society or the outback. People in these communities all like being treated with respect. And I'm pretty certain that you yourself like being treated with respect. Since that is the case, highly recommended that you go out of your way to treat everybody you run into with respect. Okay, the concept of honoring, being respectful to your elders is a fantastic idea if they are being respectful to you. If not, I find it very hard to justify being respectful to them. Now, I'm older than some of you, I'm younger than others. If we take a look at past life memories, my conscious ones go back a staggering level further than most. However, it doesn't change the fact, it doesn't make me worth any more than you. Okay, I've learned a staggering amount from people, okay, that come from different walks of life that are chronologically younger than I am. My personal opinion is that the two most wasted commodities on the planet is the wisdom of the seniors and the enthusiasm of the children. If we tap into those and get communication lines running back properly, or more to the point, when we tap into them and get communications between people back to where they are best suited, we will find this world becomes a lot more enjoyable without the wars, without the famine, without the fear. Time to get started. Now, that said, I've got a few things I gotta get done, so I will talk to you again tomorrow. And until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, Stay positive.